Well, thankfully, hurricane season is winding down.
There is a storm brewing in the Atlantic, so we're going to ask our meteorologist, Jacob Dickey. Jacob, before we dive into all that, we're going to feed off of our chat a little bit. And do you have any cooking mishaps that are worth mentioning?
Well, I got to mention the cucumber.
That was on live TV.
First time trying to make something vegan for Heather.
Maybe just pass.
It was a flop. That's what it was. I remember, too, growing up, you go to Grandma's house, you get cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we got to Grandma's house, and she had used all salt instead of sugar.
Oh,
we just ate the cookies. These are great, Grandma.
How did you even?
Well, and then she realized what she did. She threw them out. It was really funny. She I can't believe I did that. So, yeah, all salt instead of sugar. They were not good cookies.
Yes.
Fun memory,
yes.
for sure. Okay, well, there is a hurricane.
Yeah.
Ready to hit landfall in Florida.
Yeah, I believe, actually, I forgot to check the update at 4 o'clock. Either is tropical storm or hurricane. My graphics will show it here. So we're talking about the Ask Your Meteorologist. Of course, the first question we've got, are you guys reading that?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. It's from Deborah Urban, and I was just mesmerized by that beautiful graphic, actually. I'd never seen that before. I know categories of hurricanes are rated by the winds. Why are some hurricanes more damaging than others?
Yeah, so the wind gets a lot of the attention when it comes to hurricanes on the Stafford-Simpson scale, but you're talking about the wind, but also the water, the flooding, and then the storm surge. Now, when it comes to hurricanes, storm surge and water related are actually the cause of a majority of all the fatalities with hurricanes. Whatever reason, the scale looks at wind, and wind is a part of the equation, but there's a lot of factors that go into how that works. So let's take a look at Tropical Storm Nicole real quick. This storm here looks a whole lot different than Ian did a few weeks ago. If you remember, Ian came into Florida, devastated Fort Myers area. This storm, not quite as impressive. Now, the latest there is a tropical storm still, but it's expected to strengthen here to hurricane status late tonight into early tomorrow morning, making landfall as a Category 1 with 75-mile-an-hour winds. Now, still with 75-mile-an-hour winds, there's been a lot of erosion with storm surge, and that's because of the size of the storm. We talk about the size of storms, and that plays a role here. Look at the wind field. The wind field for tropical storm force winds expands over 800 miles. This is a very large and broad storm. When you have a broad storm like this, that often makes the storm surge become a greater threat. The actual damaging wind, the hurricane force winds would be a small core within it. But if we have a large storm, we think back to some of the major storms like Katrina. Katrina affected New Orleans. Ian, things of that. Those storms were very large, and that caused a lot of momentum, which pushed inland. And, of course, the wind field being large caused a lot of storm surge. That plays a role. Also, what plays a role is the direction that the storm's coming in. If we've got a storm moving up the eastern coast of Florida, it's going parallel. Well, you're not having your wind and storm surge pushing in because the storm's not moving with that. So you can usually be on a little bit better side of things. It's still going to be bad if you're close enough to the coast. But if you've got let's say like Tampa Bay, for instance, with Ian coming in, they talked about Tampa Bay. They thought, oh, this is going to be a devastating storm for that. Ian took a quick dive inland, and so Tampa Bay was on the north side of the storm where the water actually was pulled out of Tampa Bay, and all that storm surge was more down by Fort Myers and Port Charlotte, places like that. So we're looking at the direction, the size of the storm. Of course, the wind speed also is important, and that's why there's a lot of focus today. Now the storm surge warnings are heavily pushed. They talk a lot about that. And then, of course, inland flooding could be a problem, too, because Ian caused a lot of flooding inland from that storm. Nicole will as well, but it's still going to be a problematic storm, but it's not going to be anything as devastating as on a widespread scale as Ian was.
Hopefully. I'm kind of interested to know that, okay, I know the storms are named in alphabetical order. We went from Ian to Nicole. So
well, yeah, the other storms in between.
JKLMN.
Other storms in between, they were probably fish storms, so they didn't affect any land or didn't affect the United States. We tend to only talk about them if they affect the mainland United States or they're of importance. One of those names made landfall in, I think it was Belize earlier, but it was a Category 1, and it was a small storm, didn't have a lot of wind surge with that. They had some flooding problems.
Okay,
so we go through all that list and then get there. I got to look where Heather and Grace is on it. Yeah, surely that's on there somewhere.
No, thanks.
Oh, goodness. Okay, Sherry has a question.
Yes, and it's talking about the dirty side of a hurricane. I didn't know there was a dirty side of a hurricane.
Yeah, Heather, this isn't
How are we going with this question?
This isn't the drink that you get at the bar, Heather.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not like a dirty martini or anything like that.
Thank you for clarifying.
Oftentimes, when we talk about the dirty side of a storm, we take a look here, and I've got graphics. Let me pull up at the preview so I can see where we're at on those. There we go. So this here is a classic hurricane. This is actually Hurricane Dorian from, I believe it was last year. You can almost pick out the eye. I mean, it's right there.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
that circle, very symmetrical, very smooth, very strong, mature hurricane. A lot of times, though, we've got storms that maybe look a little more like this. Now, that was a tropical storm. That was Cristobal, and that made landfall last year in the Gulf. If you look at that, where's the center of the storm at? Can you pick that out? Not quite. Right? It's hard to see. Well, how about this? I'll put the icon in there. That's actually the center of the storm there. Now look to the right side of it. See all that oranges and yellows and reds? There's a lot more thunderstorms, a lot more activity on the right side of it. So we call it a dirty storm or a lopsided storm. Often on hurricanes, the right side of the storm is the worst part of the storm. You got the momentum coming in, and then that's usually where you get more tornadoes. If your storm is moving forward and you've got the winds wrapping around, you can see the winds be a little bit stronger on that side too. But in a lot of storms that are weaker, whether there's wind shear or drier air like there was in that last graphic there, they just won't look as clean as a mature storm. So that's what that's what a lopsided, dirty hurricane looks like. In fact, Nicole, kind of a little lopsided and wonky looking. It's not a classic strong storm for us.
I had no idea there were dirty hurricanes.
I had no idea as well. You think we'll experience any of like the rain? Will it make its way as far?
Interestingly enough, it would try to come this way.
Okay.
But boy, do we got a strong cold front coming.
I know.
Temperatures.
I don't want to hear it.
A lot of time when
Not
the
about
fronts
it.
come through, they shove it all to the east, and that's what's going to happen. So we're going to miss out.
We got a football game on Saturday to go to. I don't want to
Bundle
freeze
up.
my cookies off.
Bundle up. Kevin's going to have the latest to 5.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jacob.
Yes, thank you
All
so
right.
much. And if you would like to ask Jacob a question, you can post it on his Facebook page. You can email him. Got all the ways you can connect with him right there on your screen.